let's talk about the basics of water bath canning. Water bath canning is perhaps the easiest method when it comes to learning how to can, especially if it's your first time. Let's get into what kind of materials you are going to need and what it's going to be best used for. Water bath canning is best used when you are doing jams, jellies, marmalades, pickling, if you're doing some salsas, and any fruits that you plan on preserving. That's what the water bath canner is for. So I'm going to kind of go over the process as well as what you might need. I would definitely suggest, if you're a first time canner, you should definitely get this book. Even if you're a seasoned canner, you should get this book. It's Ball Blue Book, Guide to Preserving. This has all the information you need for water bath canning, for pressure canning. This is your go-to guide. It has all the information you need of what materials you're going to need, as well as recipes. This is perhaps one of the best books out there. That way you're not having to have your laptop or tablet by your food while you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, because you can go access the website as well, but you would almost have to know what you're looking for. This all comprehensive guide, I will put down in the description below the materials that I use for canning. These will be affiliate links, so we do benefit monetarily if you choose to make a purchase through them, which if you do, thank you very much. So, going into what you need for water bath canning. You're going to need a canner. Each canner when you purchase a canner, it will come with a pot, a lid, and a wire rack. There are silicone mat racks on the market. It just depends how often you plan on preserving. If you plan to preserve less often, stick with the wire rack. If you plan to preserve more often, go with the silicone mat rack. Then you are going to need a funnel, which will keep the residues off the rims of your jars when you go to start putting stuff in. You will need a jar grabber to get jars out. You will need, the name they made for this is very long, but this is, helps you get out bubbles, and then this side helps you measure exactly how far from the rim you are. So you take your jar, go like this, tells you how far you are from the rim. If you got bubbles, this is how you get rid of them. Obviously you will need jars. I'm using half pints. This is what I typically use. There are quarter pints, which are even smaller. Then you've got full-on pints, and then you've got quart-sized jars as well. You will need lids. I'm using just a different brand than I would recommend for your beginners. For beginners, I would recommend you use the official Kerr or Ball canning lids. Those ones don't usually have problems, and especially when you're a first beginner canner, that's going to be your go-to if you're brand new, because they're so much easier to handle and work with. And you will need, to keep those lids on your jars, you're going to need some rims. So, or not rims, rings. You're gonna need some rings. So that's what you're gonna need. I am going to make some jam today, If you wish to see that video, I will put a link somewhere here and you will be able to see my process of making that jam. But let me go whip up a batch and then I will get back to you guys on the rest of the process of water bath canning. All right, my jam is done, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting it in my jars. So you want to put your funnel on top of your jar. Then you're just going to lift your ladle and just pour it in there. Now you're going to want to stop at about 1/4 of an inch from the rim. So if you actually take your measurer, you can actually go, and there's a mark on here that says 1/4 inch. It's actually down there. So we're filling it up about almost to the tippy top. So we're gonna go ahead and just get this done. Now when you take the funnel out, usually it ends up going down, so you don't have as much in as when you had the funnel in. Love science, right? So right here, I'm a little shy still. I could add a little bit more. Sometimes I like leaving that little bit of extra space just to help seal it. So since that one's done, might add just a titch more actually. That should be more than enough. Okay, now I'm gonna set that one aside. Pull this one forward. Start filling it up. Are full. I had a little bit extra that didn't quite make a full half pint. I could technically take some out of some of these others and put it in here to make a full pint, but I need samples for my craft fair, so I'm just gonna put a lid that I can't reuse. You can't reuse your lids once you've used them once in the canning process. And I'm just gonna go put this one in the fridge once it's cooled down a little bit more, and that one's good to go for samples. The rest of these, we need to clean up the rims. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get a paper towel, and I'll see you in a second. While we clean up the rims for the lid, to be ready for the lids, I'm going to get my canning water going. I like to add just a little bit of vinegar to my canning water. It just helps with making sure I don't get as much rust and my canner doesn't start rusting on me. So I just add a little bit in. Vinegar. Not only does it help with pickling, but it also helps preserve your canner. When you go to clean the rims of your jars, you just want to take a wet paper towel. It should just be damp, really. And you're just going to take it and you're going to kind of hug the rim a little bit, kind of like you're wrapping it with this paper towel. You're going to go around. See, you can see all that food residue that's coming off on the paper towel. So we're gonna do that until our paper towel kind of comes up clean. And it should get a little bit of the inside as well as the exterior part of the rim. Because with how the lids are, they're gonna hug both the interior and exterior. So you kind of need to clean up a little bit of both. Otherwise, if you don't and bacteria gets in there, you won't know it because the lid didn't seal properly. Not to mention your food will go bad a lot more quickly. So to make sure our food stays good, we have to make sure our rims are nice and clean. For myself, I just make it a habit of like running my hand over it when I'm making jam because I can usually feel the sticky residue. So that's one done. This is pretty much the same process as you would with any other canning, whether it's pressure cooker or water bath. Cleaning the rims of the jars, put the lids on. It's gonna be the same every single time because once you put stuff in, I mean, even though I had the funnel on, you saw how much of a mess I made. I had a big splatter right here just a second ago. So it gets over your rims anyways. So the funnel just helps minimize it. And then this just helps get rid of what was left over. The other nice part about going over it with my finger like this is I can make sure there's no cracks in my jars. Because if there's any cracks, then that makes it hard for the lid to seal. Once again, we need the lid to seal in order to store this properly. So gotta make sure you don't have cracks, you don't have residue. Usually if they don't seal, then it usually tells you had some kind of residue or a crack of the jar. Or perhaps you didn't keep it in the canner long enough. That's also been a problem before. Or you might have tightened your rings too tight. There's a lot of things that can cause the lids not to seal properly. So you gotta be careful with how it is. And this one has a bit of residue that's staying for whatever reason. Unless that's just the lighting on the jar. It might be the lighting. Okay, I've got to get a new paper towel soon. But as you can see, I kind of work on the edges of the paper towel first before I keep going in. But I'm going to have to get a new paper towel here real soon. And once these are done, we'll get the lids on. Alright, the rims are all clean. I'm going to put clean new lids. This is very important. Always get new lids for whenever you're canning. If they've come off the jar when they originally came in the box, that's fine. If you use ones that have already been used, it's just not going to seal right. And not only that, like you run the risk of it just not preserving your food correctly. So I'm putting the lid on, then I'm tightening the ring just enough to where I get a small bit of resistance. I don't want to tighten it any further than that small bit, because once you do that, you run the risk of it not sealing correctly. Trust me, I've had that happen before. Chew it too loosely, water gets in, and then it doesn't seal. We want it to seal. So we're just putting our lids on, putting them straight into the canner. When I clean my lids, I usually use just some warm soapy water. And then I just rinse them with warm soapy water. That's how I clean my lids, even if they just come fresh out of the box. To me, it just is better if you just clean the lids, make sure they're all good and ready to go. Besides, you don't know what kind of hands have already been all over them, or machine hands even, before you got them here to your house. And this one is the last one that can fit in this batch here. So I still have 4 more I'm gonna have to do in a separate batch, but we're going to put these ones down into the water. Now the water is touching the bottom of the rims. We need some more water in here. So I'm gonna get some more water. We're gonna fill it up. And we want it to be at least an inch above the lids. So that's where this is gonna come in handy again. You want it at least an inch, maybe a little more, above the lids. There we go. We're right at about an inch. So I'm gonna put the lid back on this, turn the heat up on high, and then this is going to process, because of my elevation level, it's gonna process for 20 minutes. We'll check back on this in 20 minutes. It has been about 25 minutes now since we first originally left this. The 20 minutes was just it processing in the water bath. The last 5 minutes have been just the steam getting released and letting it cool down just a little bit, so we're not shocking everything when we pull it out. So with hot pads, since it is going to be extremely hot, lift the rack up. Then you're going to grab your jar grabber, and you're going to use it to get in here, pull it out. I like to just kind of tilt it slightly to get some of that water off the top. And look how that looks. Now I'm going to go put it on my counter, but just so you know, before you put it down on your counter, have some kind of towel or some kind of fabric that can kind of insulate it from your countertop. Because let's face it, if you have like laminate like I do, it might just go and melt the laminate. If you have granite, there's the possibility of, or some other natural stone, there's a possibility of a crack forming. So just put some fabric out or some towels, lay them out, put the jars on top once they're done, so then the hot jars are not gonna ruin your counters. So I'm going to start doing this, and then we'll talk a little bit more of how to know when you've gotten a seal. Look at that. Beautiful, ready to go strawberry jam. Now, for the lids, we're waiting to hear that pop sound. So these are gonna have to sit. Oh, there was a pop sound right there. So we need to let these sit for at least 24 hours just to make sure that we've gotten the seal. When you hear that pop sound, that means one of the lids have sealed. So, and there went another. So when they seal, you would be able to press down on the lid, and if it pops back up, it means it did not seal. If it stays down, it's sealed. But I cannot be touching these, messing with these, so we're gonna leave them as they are. But look how gorgeous those look. that is how you do water bath canning. Now, if you want to see something else being done on a water bath canner, make sure you write down in the comment section below what you would like to see, whether it's pickling, jelly, or maybe even some salsa. Let us know. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you're always updated on the latest and greatest. Bye! Okay, that's got 20 minutes now. And I've got all that cleaning to do so I can can more tomorrow. Okay, more jam tomorrow. This time, spicy.